Week 9. Wow. This is a really long time that I've been doing this. I am surprised if there's anyone who's actually still following along. Good for you. These really were just for me because now I look back at them and I see how far I've come, and it's really cool. For people who keep journals, that makes it really simple, but I'm one of those lazy ones who don't really like keeping a journal. I'd rather make a really quick 5-minute video and there's your journal. So easy. So week 9 was still in spring, was a tougher week. That's just because I am an adventure bug. If you've looked at my YouTube page, I call it Adventure and Lifestyle Diaries, and these ones are lifestyle, but I went on a lot of adventures last week. So, not filming any of them because they were just family visits and stuff. But last week, on my days off, I traveled all 4 days. So the Saturday I went to Calgary and back, if anyone knows where that is, and that was over 14 hours on the road. Now, if you've ever been on the road and trying to eat healthy, or ever even thought about it, it's almost impossible. You can't go to a gas station and find anything without sugar. You can't find anything that's not processed. You find a couple that have places in town that bring healthy food or sandwiches or snacks to the gas stations for truckers or other people to eat and have options, but there's still sandwiches and I can't eat bread. So that was a long road trip, that's for sure. So we left early in the morning and I made sure that I had a big breakfast, and then I also packed a few smoothies because those were quick and easy to make because I didn't have time to meal prep for this trip. And then I packed one thing for lunch, which kind of saved me any other snacks that I had left from work. So I had some pepperoni sticks left, and then I made some boiled eggs, which take 10 minutes. And that got me through the day. We're not supposed to let ourselves get hungry, and the purpose for that is because when you're hungry, you start craving foods, and you start craving foods that we shouldn't be eating or foods that you really shouldn't give into, and it becomes more about willpower, making sure you don't give in. So yeah, that was just one of my things. Is I wasn't extremely hungry because when I got home I ate, of course, but yeah, it's honestly almost impossible to eat food just from gas stations. We didn't have time to stop at a restaurant. It was a very quick trip for a wonderful thing, but yeah, it was very hard when you're trying to eat healthy. Okay, so that was just the first trip. When I say I like to adventure, I really do. I crave it all the time. But so the first trip was a full day, a 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. road trip, and that was with only a couple stops. Just because we're on the program, I know it won't always be like this, but just because we're on the program and I'm trying to stick to it as best I can, you can't really give in and say, oh, just this one day I'm gonna have something quick and easy. And now, one of my favorite quotes that Eric often tells us, I have to thank him for this, having everything in moderation. Like a lot of people say, well, I'll eat healthy, but then I'll give in and have something else. It's like saying you're having health in moderation. And that really puts things into perspective for me, and I often have to remind myself of that because, yeah, you could give in, but then you're also compromising your own health. And why would you do that? It's really hard to stick to a program on the road, and I just gotta admit that right now. Now that was just the first road trip. The second one I did was down to Vancouver, BC. Anyways, so the other quick and easy thing that I packed they're like coconut bombs. So they're made with coconut oil, almond butter. I used almond and hazelnut butter this week. I put chia seeds in mine. You could also add flax seeds. Hemp hearts, I actually haven't been able to find any without sugar, so I haven't been using those. Some people put flaked coconut in them. I just not someone who loves it. I tried it and I didn't like it with it, so I make mine a bit differently. And then you mix it all together, you put it in little freezer trays, and mine are heart-shaped, which I got at IKEA, and then put them in the fridge or the freezer if you're trying to be quick like I was, and then you just pack them. And they're just really quick, easy energy sources. So if you're having a low energy, you just have one of those and it's really quick and easy. I was having like 2 a day on these road trips so that I kept up my energy and it gave me that little bit of food. So with my second trip to Vancouver, I decided to challenge myself. And by challenge myself, I mean actually not pack everything and try going to restaurants and eating WildFit while in Deep Spring, which is like the hardest part I'm finding right now. So I was lucky that my family is very supportive and helpful. So we went to some more high-end, fancier restaurants. The first night it was a very nice restaurant. So we had a view overlooking the ocean and watching the sunset on the water. And I am a water bug through and through, so I was craving the ocean, and that just like made my week for sure. So then that restaurant, the kitchen was really simple and easy. So I was craving steak, so I wanted steak, but they put like mushroom sauce and all the sauces and all the things, and there's stuffed potatoes, and yeah, tastes really good, but we can't have that this week. So I just simply asked for how I make my steaks, which is just putting salt and pepper on them and grilling them. And that's what they did for me, and it tastes amazing. And I loved it, and they were kind of like, what? But I'm like, yeah, I'm enjoying it. And you know, for restaurants, as long as the customer's happy, they're happy. So be thankful for what you get. And then the other thing I did is it came with vegetables, and I just asked for them to be steamed so they weren't soaked in butter or coated in salt, like all that stuff. So I just asked for simple, plain steamed vegetables and steak, and that was my dinner, and that made life really easy. The other thing that I did as a hack, now traveling and eating healthy is just extremely expensive. I have found if you actually are wanting to get good meals, like it's a lot easier to go to a fancy restaurant because they cater to you a bit more, and that's just the atmosphere and that's what you get. So we were staying in a nice hotel, and I decided that instead of going out to find breakfast, like most of the times if I was traveling, I'd just go to Starbucks and you'd get their yogurt there or a little snack or something, and then a tea, and that would be your breakfast while traveling. Or for me, a banana oftentimes is just breakfast. I couldn't do that while in this week, so I ordered room service and I just asked for eggs and an omelet, which was good because they put like the spinach and mushrooms and tomatoes in it, which was really tasty, and yeah, that held me through most of the day. And then I also had my smoothies packed for my 3 days down there, and that made life really easy because then for lunch and my snacks was I had smoothies, and then we had a bit of an earlier dinner. And my second dinner there, I just went simple and easy again. Like I could have had fish, but asking someone to grill fish or to cook it differently is a bit harder than meat. So I went for steak again, and it's same thing. It was super easy. We didn't go to a super fancy restaurant, but we went to a restaurant that caters to allergies. And I thought this was a little funny because I'm not actually allergic to anything. I'm sensitive to certain things, like everyone is. If you pay attention, you'll notice that you have a few sensitivities too, but I am definitely not like deadly allergic to anything. And our waitress knew that, and she was amazing, but because it's an allergy restaurant, they have to cater to any special requirements like they're an allergy. So, whoopsies, poor them. But that's one of those times where you just have to think about, well, I'm doing this for myself, even though it puts more stress on everyone else. They weren't really quite understanding that I'm like, well, you don't have to be like super strict. I just need to make sure that there's like no dairy and no gluten, and especially no sugar added to my meals. But they still have to do it like an allergy protocol. So for our second dinner, I went for steak and veggies again, but this time my WildFit coach, she gave us a great little tip when we're going to restaurants. And if you look at the menu, they have a whole bunch of different things, right? obviously. So you have like your mains and your sides and then all these different things, and every main comes with different vegetables and certain things. So I looked at, well, the easiest meat or protein for me to ask them to cook is steak or something like that. Ribs are really hard too because all ribs are coated in sauce, so I can't really have those. Fish, while we're on the ocean, is easy, but most of the time fish is deep fried or cooked in a batter. Asking someone to just cook it plain is a little bit harder and complicated than just saying, could you salt and pepper and grill my steak? So steak was my first pick, of course. Of course, it's the expensive one. Eating healthy is not cheap. And then I looked at all the different sides, and we're limited this week in the veggies that we're eating. So I looked and I picked out which veggies I could eat, and then I simply just said, I know it, like the meal, the main with the steak comes with like baked potatoes and fries, but can you steam these vegetables that I see are on a different plate or a different meal and put those in mine? And they were super good and easy, and they're like, well, yeah, I guess so. Like they questioned it, they're like, what? Okay, but when you know that they have it in the kitchen, it's really like, I have to admit, I think my meal was probably the easiest to make. Salt and pepper, grill the steak, and steam some green vegetables for me. That was all I asked, and yeah, so that's all I did. Was I looked at the different pieces of the menu, the parts that I could eat, parts that I didn't, and since they're allergy catering restaurant, that made it extremely easy because they took it really seriously, and I guess that's for my benefit too. And yeah, so find when traveling high-end restaurants, sadly, they make life a lot easier if you're trying to eat healthy, and then restaurants that cater to allergies makes their life a lot harder, but it also makes you feel a lot better, and I'm just thankful for that. So yeah, that was my week 9. I challenged myself to not pack as much and to just go with it and to find what I could when I needed it, and that made it a bit harder. Lots of water was involved. I packed my favorite tea, which made it really easy too. I don't really have any big tips for traveling and eating healthy. The biggest thing I have to say is get rid of your social uncomfort. It's only bothering you. So don't let anyone else's judgments or opinions come to mind, bother you at all, and it makes life so much better. Because yeah, of course, if you're asking for a special meal, you're gonna get some strange looks and some questions, and that's when you just have to take a deep breath and explain what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I know the waitress that we had on our second night was actually very intrigued, and like, she's pretty cute. She's like, I'm proud of you, that's really hard to do. And I'm like, yeah, it's not easy, but priorities. And yeah, having social anxieties or not wanting to go for meals because of what people will think. Really, I remember Skip Kelly told us this story, and Skip was saying he is a YouTuber and makes videos, and so oftentimes in public he's standing there with his camera videoing himself, and that can be awkward and extremely hard, and a lot of people make fun of you for it. I know I've done them, and a lot of people give you strange looks or strange things, and it's the same as when I'm going to a restaurant right now. Everyone's like, what? And the one time he was saying that someone was laughing at him, and afterwards he went up and talked to them, and they just said, man, I could never do what you do. They were jealous and were kind of like, well, not really jealous, but like in awe that he was actually able to do what he does. And I'm thankful Skip shared that story with us, because I put myself into perspective then and say, well, you know what, if someone's making fun of me, or if they're just kind of like, wow, you have to put it into perspective and think, well, they're also kind of like, I could never do what you do. And in a positive way, not in like, why are you doing that? In like, wow, that's amazing. So just let it go. And well, that is it for week 9. Stay tuned for week 10. It's getting a little bit exciting now because we're so close to being done, and that's pretty neat. Yeah, so stay tuned.